I'm Rob.
And I'm Nate.
And welcome back to Rob and Nate Record a Podcast, the concluding week of our Adam Sandler theme month, in which we watched the 2019 film Uncut Gems. Do you want to lead us off with first reactions?
I hated it.
Did you?
I hated it.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah?
My feeling towards it would be best described as hate.
What didn't you like?
That's too big a question. What did I like would be the better question.
Okay.
Which would be the last 20 minutes. But, it's a cherry on top of a turd sundae. It wasn't enough.
So this movie is directed by the Safdie brothers, Benny and Josh Safdie, who are best known probably for their previous film, Good Times, from 2017.
There's a Good Times reference in this film, but for the 1970s sitcom Good Times.
There's a couple different references to different things in this one. Mm-hmm. I think you took it as a 1970s reference, but I think it actually was a reference to the 2017, and we'll get into that in a minute. Okay. The movie stars Adam Sandler as Howard Ratner, Julia Fox as Julia De Fiore, Idina Menzel as Deanna Ratner. It also has Lakeith Stanfield.
All sorts of challenges for pronunciation is what it has. I'm just looking over at this cast like, oh.
Kevin Garnett, Eric Bogosian as Arno, and Judd Hirsch as Gooey. It's his credited role. It's like his father-in-law or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. Oh, and John Amos, who we'll get to later.
Yeah,
on.
Good Times.
Yeah. And the plot centers around Adam Sandler, who is a diamond broker, but also like a jeweler in the Diamond District, but also just a terrible gambler who has these terrible gambling problems. And every time he has an opportunity in this film to straighten things out and kind of start working things, he doubles down on his terrible bets and loses right up until close to the end of the movie. We are a spoiler cast, and it looks like things are going to finally turn his way, and his terrible luck continues, and he's killed at the end of the movie. Yeah, there's questions about the way that like what happens after the end of this film. But yeah, I don't know. What do you want to talk about this film? I guess if you hate it, probably not too much.
No, it was torture. It was horrible. It was painful. I hated it. I did not enjoy watching this movie. Again, the last little bit where are they going to make this bet work? Is this going to work out at the end? There was something to be said for that, but I mean, there's so much that came before it that was just a drag. This movie, and we're skipping order a little bit, this movie is incredibly well received. It has a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it has a 52% audience score. Adam Sandler does quite the performance here. So it's a very strong
Which was our motivating reason to watch this. Like, his performance has been talked about since the film came out. Yeah, we've talked about watching this for a long time.
I was scanning through the little excerpts from the reviews on the Rotten Tomatoes. There was somebody that said, it's like, yeah, he does a good job, but really, how big of a leap is it for me to buy Adam Sandler as an a-hole? It's like, he's done versions of this, so he does do a good job about that. But I just found the whole thing just unpleasant and grating, and the tension. And there's another review that talked about how you're supposed to be able to impart that your characters are under tension without making the audience miserable. I was miserable.
How much of that do you think was preconceived expectations?
I was thinking this would be good because of its overwhelming critical reception.
Well, and we'll get into more of that, I think, a little bit later on. The movie has kind of a weird opening. It opens on an Ethiopian mine and the discovery of this gemstone, and then it goes through the gemstone into this weird transition that concludes in a colonoscopy. Yeah.
It's a very good metaphor for the film. It promises us a gem, it delivers a colonoscopy.
Okay. But then the movie just goes straight into confrontations about Howard's debts and his different things, and also this girlfriend that he has on the side. I was surprised by how many confrontations in this movie were in this movie. I mean, it seems like the movie just goes from one confrontation to another. He first has a confrontation with his girlfriend. Well, he has a confrontation about his gambling debts, then it goes to a confrontation with his girlfriend. Then he takes this necklace that was at his girlfriend's place that's supposed to be going to the weekend or something, or belonged to the weekend, and he pawns it or sells it and then places a bet with it. and immediately has confrontations goes back to his store and immediately has additional confrontations at his store. That's when he meets the Kevin Garnett character as Kevin Garnett. And
I'm not a basketball guy, so I was not. I thought at first this is a real guy, and then towards the end I thought this is a fake character. But you're telling me this is a real. Kevin Garnett's a real.
Yes, won multiple NBA championships. Okay. Actually played for the Boston Celtics. It was originally supposed to be a different basketball player in this movie, and when we get into the trivia, I'll talk about that. But it was supposed to be a basketball player from Ethiopia, but they had delays in shooting, and so it was then going to conflict with the NBA schedule. So they had to change who they were going to have to not have a current NBA player in the movie. So
is that part of why there's a subplot about how he is turning 36 and he's late and he should retire? So is this kind of like if he hadn't retired kind of storyline?
No. Garnett's just the person that fills that role. That could have been filled by myriad other people. But Garnett ends up convincing Howard, who has just gotten a hold of this gemstone, to let him take it. But Garnett is attributing supernatural powers to the gemstone, and he has a tremendous game the night that he has the stone. And then we follow all of these difficulties of Howard trying to get the stone back and additional confrontations that revolve around that. He has been given Kevin Garnett's championship ring as collateral for the stone, and he goes and immediately pawns it and takes the money from the pawn and places it on a bet. A bet that he would have won and would have paid off all of his debts, except for, as we find out later, one of his bookies stepped in and stopped the bet.
Well, that guy is his brother-in-law.
Yeah, Arno. Yeah.
Which leads to a very tense, as if there's scenes in this film that aren't tense, Passover dinner scene.
Yeah. There's a lot of confrontations in this movie. As things progress, there's the scene where they're at his daughter's play, and the goons for his bookie, Arno's goons, are in the school auditorium. And so he leaves the auditorium to try and get the confrontation over with away from his family. He's eventually caught. He flees and is eventually caught and is left naked in the trunk of his car. He has to call his wife, who has to leave the play to come get him out of the trunk. He's apparently got some clothes left in the trunk, so he's able to get dressed and come back in and join his family. And then it goes to a concert for The Weeknd, who is actually a performing artist.
I did that one.
This is both The Weeknd and Kevin Garnett's film debuts. And when he gets there,
they debuted on the same weekend.
Oh, there you go. When they get there, Howard's girlfriend is there flirting with The Weeknd, probably going to be progressing beyond that, but then there's yet another confrontation with Howard and The Weeknd. He's trying to break up with the girlfriend at this time. He eventually gets the stone back and is going... before that, he goes to the auctioneer to try and get the stone appraised, get everything set up for the auction, has a confrontation with his girlfriend on the way there, and then it goes to the Passover dinner where we first meet Judd Hirsch, who I was kind of surprised to see in the movie. Happy to see him, but a little surprised to see him. And then he does eventually get the stone, takes it to the auction place. The appraisal comes back less than he's expecting. And so there's more confrontations before the auction. In the lead up to the auction, he's convinced his father-in-law, played by Judd Hirsch, to
pump up the bid.
Yeah, against Kevin Garnett. It fails. His father-in-law ends up having to buy the stone. He then makes arrangements for Kevin Garnett to buy the stone. They're at the jewelry store. He's also called Arno to pay off his debts with the money he's going to get from Kevin Garnett. And yet when he's at the jewelry store talking to Kevin Garnett, he comes up with a plan to bet the entirety of what he's just gotten from Kevin Garnett on the next basketball game. Has his girlfriend leave the store, passes her the money, between windows of the same building. She goes to a casino, places the bet, and this is what leads to the final 20 minutes, the part you actually liked. Arno goes to leave the store. They lock him between the two security doors with his guns. Yeah.
But the door doesn't work the way it's supposed to, and so Sandler is able to use that to buy him time to wait out the game because he's confident, because he's got a feeling that they're going to win, and the bet that he is placing, the parlay, would net him over $1 million.
$1.29 million. Yep. And, of course, he wins. His girlfriend collects the money, and as he lets Arno and his goons out from between the security doors, one of the goons comes in and just immediately kills him, which caught me off guard. I didn't see that coming. And then eventually when Arno's trying to escape, they also kill Arno, which I wasn't sure made total sense. But, especially where they end up not getting the girlfriend. So where does the money go from here? But that's my only other question remaining from this film.
And the conflict that was not really addressed here is the fact that Howard is going through a separation, is about to go through a separation with his wife, played by Idina Menzel. But the plan was to wait until after Passover to make that announcement to the kids and to the rest of the family.
And that's unresolved. I mean, the movie ends on Idina Menzel, or not ends on, but one of the closing scenes is Idina Menzel. He's called her because he thinks that they're going to do something to his family, has told her to leave with the kids and go to a friend's house. And she's at the friend's house telling the friend she's going to call the police because things are just going too odd. And
the kids are watching the basketball game, and they're ecstatic over the results, not knowing that their father has this massive bet on it. It just was a good game.
But
What did you think of this film?
I actually enjoyed it. I thought it built the tension. I didn't like the beginning, probably half hour of it. I just thought it was excessive and gratuitous. But then I thought it built the tension very well. I appreciated some of the characters. Some of the plot complications were unnecessary, but I thought it built the tension well, and I did not see the ending coming.
Well, it knows how to make tension. That's about all it knows how to do. We've talked before about how I need somebody to latch on to. There was nobody for me to care about in this film.
That's just because you don't like Adam Sandler. You're predisposed against him.
I'd have been open to him or somebody, but there was really nobody that was really that likable. I mean,
well, if you don't latch on to...
He wasn't
if you don't latch on to Sandler in this movie, you don't latch on to anyone. Because there's nobody else that's on the screen enough.
I liked Julia Fox more towards the end of the film, when she was in that kind of sympathetic and being really supportive of him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everybody was shrill and unpleasant, and it was just unrelenting. There was really no break in it.
Yeah, that is a very valid criticism. It was, like I said, I felt like there was too many confrontations built into the film.
And even the ending, the surprise ending, had a sense of derivative. I mean, they had to do something. They had to do something to break what they had been doing before, to break that steady trajectory, and what else could they do? It's like this film can't end with him getting away with it.
Well, they could have waited till the money got back. Because now the guys who just killed up both of them and are stealing all of his jewelry at the end of the movie, what are they? They're not getting anything.
You enjoyed watching this movie?
Yeah.
You weren't miserable?
No.
I was miserable.
I wondered.
I was sitting back there quiet. I was not reacting. I was like, I'm not...
I knew you were going to go one way or the other. I even wrote in my notes that Nate is not knocking this movie, which I either knew meant you were totally hating it or that you were actually enjoying yourself. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't sure which way you were going.
Yeah.
We didn't converse at all between...
And this is a long movie. This is a 2 hour and 15-minute long movie.
Yeah. And the movie, I mean,
and it feels longer.
Really, the movie is entirely about Adam Sandler's performance.
Yeah.
This is one of those where you basically have almost entirely one guy on the screen almost the entire movie. There's very few, if any, scenes without Adam Sandler in it.
He does a good job of being a total a-hole. Yeah. But he's still a total a-hole, and he's not pleasant to watch.
Yeah. On IMDb, this movie has an aggregate score of 7.4 stars.
Surprises
which
me.
counters the
52%
on Rotten Tomatoes. Mm-hmm. What did you say the Metacritic score was?
I didn't catch that.
On IMDb, it lists the Metacritic score as 91. Mm. So again, as you mentioned, it was well received in terms of critics' response. 7.4 stars on IMDb is not great, but it's not bad. Yeah. So, do you have any idea how this did in the box office?
Well, this would have come out in late 2019.
Yeah.
Not great, but not horrible.
It had an estimated budget of $19 million, and it had a worldwide gross of a little over $50 million.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Yeah, so it made a decent chunk of money. Some trivia that I'm not sure if Nate is going to find interesting or not, since he didn't enjoy the movie. The film was inspired by the Safdie brothers' father's time working as a salesman or runner for a man also named Howard in the Manhattan Diamond District. The Safdie brothers and their father are also Jewish and avid basketball fans.
I wouldn't have guessed.
These brothers wanted to make the film for several years prior to making Good Time in 2017, but could not get the project off the ground due to lack of financing. During that waiting period, Robert Pattinson contacted the brothers via email and said he was interested to work with them after he randomly discovered the poster of actress Arielle Holmes covered in pink neon light from their previous film, Heaven Knows What, from 2014. After they met with Pattinson, liking him and being inspired by his energy, the Safdies spontaneously started to write Good Time from 2017 with Robert Pattinson in mind. After the film's premiere in Cannes and the following critical success, the brothers found themselves getting calls from Hollywood executives with offers including big-budget superhero movie, which they declined and instead secured financing for this film. Adam Sandler wore false teeth throughout the movie, as well as a fake dark mole on his right cheek. The Safdie brothers also insisted on shooting this film on 35mm, something that is very unusual in this day and age, and they actually took a pay cut in order to be able to do that. It was Adam Sandler's wife who convinced him to take this role after reading the screenplay and having watched Good Time from 2017. At one point, Howard tells his son that his neighbor acted in Good Times from 1974 and Coming to America in 1988. When they knock on the door, it is answered by John Amos, who was indeed the father in Good Times and the father of Eddie Murphy's love interest in Coming to America. Interestingly enough, the Safdie brothers made a film called Good Time 2017, which inspired Adam Sandler to take the role in the film. I thought I had read previously that Amos had a role in the 2017 film, but I was mistaken. Kevin Garnett was cast as the NBA star only after The Weeknd was cast in the film as himself. The Safdies looked for NBA players who were active at the same time that The Weeknd was a public person performing shows in New York City in 2012. Garnett was cast for his performance in the 2012 NBA playoffs that matched the plot of the film. One great game, one subpar game, and another great game. All in a relatively short period of time, games 5 through 7 in the 2012 Eastern Conference semifinals, and all in close proximity to New York City. The games were played in Boston and Philadelphia. Garnett had also previously expressed an interest in acting. This is socialite Julia Fox's first film role.
Oh, she's a social.
Yes. She was approached by the Safdie brothers based on her high-profile New York City social life. The film was originally supposed to take place in the then-present day with NBA star Joel Embiid playing the role of the basketball player obsessed with the Black Opal. When filming for the movie was moved to the fall during the NBA season, using an active NBA player became out of the question.
Oh.
This film has a lot of gratuitous language. Mm-hmm. Was that anything that was off-putting to you or that you noticed?
Not particularly. Maybe it was really more the tone than the words.
So this movie uses the F word 560 times.
Wow.
Any guesses where that places it in the most uses of the F word in films?
Oh, top 4.
It is 4th in the highest in film history. Mm. Do you know which movies it's behind, or any of them?
They'll be entertaining.
Swearnet, the movie, used the F word 935 times. A documentary on the word with 857 uses. Mm. And then the one that you may or may not be surprised by, The Wolf of Wall Street, which uses the F word 569 times. Based on the film's runtime of 135 minutes, the word appears an average of 4.15 times per minute in the film.
How did I not notice that? I must develop some kind of immunity. It just slid off.
So one of the things that's a little bit interesting about this film, Adam Sandler's base salary for acting in a movie is usually $20 million, but the entire film's budget was $19 million.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis has repeatedly praised Adam Sandler's performance in this film. This was Adam Sandler's first live-action role in a theatrical film since Pixels back in 2015. Wow. All of his other live-action film roles went straight to Netflix. Mm. This is part of the Criterion Collection.
And so is Armageddon.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts on this film?
I really didn't like it.
Yeah?
It was unpleasant.
I'm going to go ahead and rate this movie 7 out of 10. I might have given it 8 if it wasn't for the excessive confrontation and excessive language, but I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 on the 10-star scale, and I'll give it 3 out of 4 on the 4-star scale.
I'm giving it 1 and 3.
That's pretty close to some of the lowest ratings you've ever given. So, yeah, I think that wraps up our conversation on this movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, we'll be talking about it off record.
I'm sure. Yeah. However, now we have to wrap up our Adam Sandler theme month. Mm-hmm. part of the reason for this month is just because Nate has not seen a lot of Adam Sandler films and kind of has despised Adam Sandler. Has this month done anything to change your mind?
I probably am marginally better disposed to him now. This wasn't the note to end on, though, if that was the goal.
Yeah.
Of course,
I thought about substituting it. I thought about substituting it for The Hustle on Netflix.
I was surprised that I was coming into this thinking I would like it.
This is better rated than The Hustle on IMDb. Has a higher rating.
Yeah, just really rubbed me the wrong way.
So our 4 films this month were Happy Gilmore,
Punch Drunk
Love, 50 First Dates, and Uncut Gems. Nate, I know what will be your bottom, but how do you rate the others?
Going up, so number 4 is Uncut Gems. Number 3 is Happy Gilmore. Number 2 is 50 First Dates. Number 1 is Punch Drunk Love.
Stuck with that one, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would actually put 50 First Dates on the top. I'm torn between this and Punch Drunk Love second and third. You could make them somewhat interchangeable, and then Happy Gilmore fourth, actually. Mm-hmm. So it's a different era of Adam Sandler acting. He hasn't done that in a long time. And he still does goofy stuff, but usually it's slightly higher quality than Happy Gilmore is. But yeah. What other thoughts do you have on Adam Sandler theme month?
I think he's talented. I mean, he gives a good performance. He gives a good performance in what I felt to be a bad film. And I even have to asterisk that because, I mean, he does good stuff. He's stretching himself, which I've criticized him for avoiding doing. But a little would have gone a long way. Like this film, if this film had been trimmed down to close to 100 minutes, and if it had just kind of added something likable about him or toned down some of this film was just so annoying. If it had been less annoying, then that performance would have shined through for me more, and I probably would have liked the film more. And again, I did like the ending. I had thought about maybe upping it to 1.5, but I'm like, no, I just can't. There's too much baggage before it can't be redeemed that with the play very late in the game. Yeah, so Adam Sandler, marginal increase in feelings towards him at the end of the month. Is there another Adam Sandler film that's out that you haven't seen that you might consider seeing after this? Not that comes off the top of my head. I mean, the one that comes to mind, just because I haven't seen it and it's, been around forever, would be Billy Madison, but I don't suspect I'd like it. I actually don't think you'd like Billy Madison. I think the reason I showed you Happy Gilmore, as we've discussed previously, is because I felt like it was the better of the two and the one of the two that you would like. Mm. Billy Madison is more potty humor, juvenile humor, even more than Happy Gilmore was. Maybe I kind of want to see Airheads from the 90s with Brendan Fraser and Steve Buscemi, which I also don't anticipate will be good, but I like the weirdness of that cast. Yeah. Again, I think the part of what makes Adam Sandler as popular as he is and allows him to command the money that he does in some of these films is just the fact that most of his films have maintained a PG-13 rating, or films that he has any involvement in the production in. The only ones that have had R ratings have been ones that, he acts in, but he doesn't have any control over. So he decided to make up for that disparity with this one movie. I don't know. Again, his wife is the one that convinced him to take this role. This is an interesting movie in terms of like recommendation. Who would I recommend this movie to? Because of it's a hard R, because of the violence, the language, those types of things. Not a ton of people I'd recommend it to, but if you have an interest to see it or predisposition to see it and aren't bothered by those two things, then yeah, go ahead and watch it. Almost no sexual content, which I kind of anticipated there would be in this. But yeah, very little at all. Mm-hmm. Anyone you'd recommend this movie to, Nate? No, not really. Not off the top of my head. I didn't think so. All right. Well, I'm Rob. I'd be Nate. And this is Rob and Nate Record a Podcast. You ready? I'm ready. Do I need to adjust the volumes? I guess I should probably check on that. Can you give me just a little bit more? A little bit more. Okay. I think we are pretty well good. Good times it was not. Are you feeling the need for revenge now, or did the rest of the Adam Sandler theme month hold over? I liked two of the three, 50 First Dates and of course Punch Drunk Love, and I thought I didn't hate Happy Gilmore. But well, now you can say you've seen it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I really hated this movie.
Yeah. I'm a little bit surprised you hated it as much as you did.
Yelling, and somebody described it on IMDb as like being stuck in a taxi with a particularly obnoxious New Yorker for 2 hours. I'm like, yeah, I could relate to that.